Hello, ladies and gentlemen, this is Spider, and welcome back to another review. And today we're taking a look at the Transformers Generations Deluxe Class Arcee. This figure released back in 2014 and loosely based on her appearance from the G1 cartoon. So, to get things started, we'll take a look at the packaging. Alrighty, here we have the box, which is looking kind of plain with the comic removed, which yes, this does include a comic, and we'll talk about that more in a moment. But up top here, you got the Transformers Generations logo. Up front here, you have Transformers Thrilling 30, Arcee. On the side, you got a little Autobot symbol. Nothing really on the other side. On the back, you got some cool stuff. You got another Transformers Generations logo. You got a little bio there if you want to pause and read it. You got some cool images of Arcee, and you got some stats and stuff. And I was talking about this in a previous review that boxes don't really do this kind of stuff anymore. You know, like have little stats and bios that are more than a single sentence. Like, they don't really do that, and I miss it. This stuff is cool. Anyways, now on to the instructions. And these instructions are really quite big when they're all folded out, because, my goodness, them some big old instructions, and they are fairly decent at telling you how to transform the figure, which unfortunately cannot be said for every instructions. Now, we can move on to the included comic, which has an exclusive cover with Arcee on it, and it does look quite nice. Now, the comic itself only really includes Arcee a handful of times. Like, she appears in like 4 panels, and that's really about it. Which is kind of funny, because last time I took a look at a Generations figure that included a comic, it was Orion Pax, and that comic was all about him. Like, it was his comic. Here, just handful of appearances. So that's kind of funny. Anywho, now we should move on to the figure. Okay, so here we have Arcee in her Cybertronian cruiser mode. At least that's what the box calls it. And while the figure is packaged in the robot mode, we're starting with the vehicle. Why? Because I feel like it. Anyways, so we'll take this. Bring it up close here. You get some nice blue on the front, which is very nice. Even got a little bit of like sparkly reflectiveness to it, which I do quite like. You got a nice, clean Autobot symbol there. You got some black and pink and whites and whatnot. And you do actually have a detailed interior. You got a couple chairs, you got a little steering wheel, a little dashboard and everything. That's actually really cool. I like that. You got a little fin spoiler thingamabob, whatever this would be called. You get more pinks, some whites, and blacks throughout the vehicle. You got the back. Yeah, you got the bottom, which, yeah, you can kind of see what's going on there and how this will transform. But overall, this is actually pretty neat. I really like this little Cybertronian cruiser thingy. Looks pretty cool, and it rolls pretty well. So, yeah, I got no problems with this. This looks really cool. I likes it. I do quite likes it. And the figure comes with a whole buttload of accessories. Like, my goodness. You get her little pistol. Looks pretty cool. You got a little bit of gray on the front there, and that's really it. Kind of break up the black of the pistol. And then you get her little rifle. You got some grays and blacks and pinks. That's pretty neat. And I believe both of those guns are based on the weapons she used in the movie. I think. Maybe. And then you get 2 Energon blades. Cast in this clear blue translucent plastic. And these both look really, really nice. I do quite like these things. And the figure has plenty of places to put these weapons as well. The instructions tells you to put the blades, plug them onto there, because you got a little tab there, a little hole there. You can plug them in like that. Tells you to plug in the guns up on the back. Whoops. Do that. Plug them in there like that. And there you go. You got her car mode all armed up, ready to go into war. And you can swap them out as well. You can plug in the guns on the side if you want, and plug these in on the top like that. There also are tabs on the side of the gun, so they can technically plug in on the side like that, but the handle sticks out too far, and so it kind of bumps into the wheel, so I don't recommend you do that. And if you wanted a more covert way to store the weapons, you can store them on the bottom. So the rifle will go into this spot there. I'm holding it the wrong way. So just tap them in like that. And then you have a pistol, which will plug in right there. And you can actually have the arms grab onto it like that. And even with the weapon stored on the bottom, it still rolls perfectly fine. So yeah, that's really cool. I like the little underneath storage. Although the odd thing is, neither of these are in the instructions. You think they would be, but they're not. They don't tell you to do this. I mean, these aren't like their little fan conversions. Like, it's clearly, these are sculpted perfectly for this to plug in like that. So that was molded that way intentionally. So why wouldn't they put it in the instructions? That's, I don't know, that's very weird. But anyways, gonna untap that. And also, when you plug in this gun in there like that, don't expect to get it back anytime soon, because once it's in, oh goodness, it's in. It don't come out very easily. Goodness gracious. Yeah, it's when it's in there, it's stuck pretty good. It takes quite a bit of force to get it out. There's also a little peg at the bottom, so you can plug it into a stand if you wanted to. So that's pretty neat. So yeah, car mode. I like it. Very nicely done. Now we should move on to size comparisons. So to start things off, as always, here it is with a LEGO minifigure, the Pack of Destruction minifigure Mothra, the Pack of Destruction minifigure Godzilla. Now on to some more relevant size comparisons. Here it is with the Transformers Universe Energon Arcee. Here it is with the 2007 Movie Deluxe Arcee. Here she is with the last Generations figure I reviewed, at least I think it was, the Generations Orion packs. Here she is with the Transformers Origins Bumblebee and Jazz. And they three do look quite good together. I do like that. Looks quite nice. Here she is with the Transformers Animated Cybertron Mode Ratchet. There we go, that's better. And with the Generations Cybertronian War for Cybertron Glyph Jumper from 2010. Alrighty, now that we're done with all that, it's measuring time. So we'll get this measuring tape all measured out. And the vehicle mode is almost 5 inches long. And a little over an inch tall. So, not too bad in size. Alrighty, got the camera all raised up so we can move on to the transformation. Actually, before we do that, I do want to mention this little fin spike thingamabob It can kind of pop up like that sometimes. What you gotta do is just push it back down, and should be fine. Anyways, transformation. It shall begin now. So, what I have to do first is take the legs and just unclip them from there. And just kind of bring them down, and that will disconnect them, or disconnect this part from the hips. Just kind of bring them down, and then just get the legs all properly situated, and fold out the feet. And when you fold them down, they will kind of clip or soft click into place. So you got that. Alright, now with this piece, you want to take this, fold it in like that. Then take the arms, just bring them down like so. Take this bit, fold it up like that. Then you just want to disconnect that front of the car, which will be the chest. It also reveals the head. Then you want to just bring this down and get all of this situated like that. So we'll peg there. It'll plug into that. That'll plug that in. Then you click that into place. Make sure the backpack is as compact as you can make it. And there you go. You got Arcee in her robot mode. Overall, I like the transformation for this figure. I think it's simple, but also quite clever. I also like how they actually try to integrate the legs into the transformation, because most of the time when doing G1 Arcee, like, you get the robot form, and then the car is pretty much all on the back. So I like that they try to include more of the robot mode into the actual vehicle transformation thingamabob, words and such. So I like that they tried to do that. I thought that was quite nice. So yeah, we got Arcee here, and to start things off, we'll take a look at her articulation. So the heads on the ball joints can look pretty good bit up. Can't really look down much, unfortunately, unless you use that. Then she can look pretty good bit down, but that just looks weird, so we won't do that. You can get a little bit of side to side. You can look around. Shoulders, also on a ball joint. They'll go that far out. You can go all the way around, but the backpack kind of gets in the way. You have a bicep rotation and a very nice bend at the elbow. No wrist articulation of any sort, which is kind of disappointing, especially since the arms don't do anything in the transformation. Like, you really could, they could have added a little wrist over there or something. Come on. Nothing at the torso. The legs can cook that far forward, but if you use some of that transformation joint, she can kick all the way up, but it looks kind of awkward. Legs can go that far out, but again, if you use the transformation joint, you can allow them to go even further out. You do get a above the knee swivel. You get very nice bend at the knee, and the foot can go up and down. So articulation on this figure, for what it is pretty dang good. I really like it. I think it is aged quite nice. You know, because there are other figures that are like, the articulation is good at the time, good for the time, but this figure is actually just pretty good all around. So we shall bring it in nice and close here and take a look at the details. We'll bring the camera up a little bit. Why? I don't know. It just felt like it. So we'll take a look at that nice Arcee face, and well, it's a decent head sculpt. I don't really feel like it says Arcee all that much. It's just, I don't know, I feel like it's kind of plain a little bit. She does have some light piping going on, which is pretty good. But to really get it going, we should take out a little flashlight. And whoa! Her whole head glows. So yeah, pretty good light piping on the figure. You got the chest, it's cool. You got that blue once again. You got the arms, which is pretty good. Got some black on the hand, which kind of makes it look like she's wearing fingerless gloves, which is interesting. You got the stomach, which, well, Arcee has always kind of had a belly, like that was always been a thing. Like she's got the little thing there, which is always supposed to be a belly button. So she's always had her midriff exposed, but this one took it a little step further and basically sculpted a whole belly, and that's that's it's certainly a choice to do. Anyways, you got legs. You got a little bit of blue below the knee there, which is pretty cool. And also when you bend the knee, they have a little piston sculpted in there, which I think that's really cool. And you got bottom there. And yes, she does have a backpack, but it's Arcee. You're pretty much never going to have an Arcee without a big old backpack. At least of the G1 design. That's just something we kind of just gotta have to accept. And honestly, it's not too bad. You know, it could be a lot worse. It is kind of big, but it doesn't really compromise her balance all that much. It can at times, but as long as you compromise for the weight, it usually is fine. Yeah, I quite like it. I think they did a fairly good job with the design. They also added quite a bit of black throughout the design, which some people aren't really a big fan of because it's not super accurate to the original cartoon. But me personally, I love it. I think it looks really nice because I've never really loved the original Arcee design. Like, I like it. It's classic and nostalgic, but I've never loved it, you know? Because it's got white, which is kind of plain, and then you got pink, which is just not really one of my favorite colors. So you combine the two together and you get kind of meh. But adding in these bits of black throughout it really elevate the design for me. So I really like that. Yeah, the only real issue that I have with the design, and that's what most people have, is that her proportions are a little off, because she's got this thin old waist and these big old thighs. She's got that Pixar mom build, which is just, it's something. it is kind of interesting. It doesn't bug me too much, but it is definitely a little weird. She just looks so disproportionate. And honestly, I don't think the thighs are that big of an issue. I think it's mostly just the waist. Like, if they just thickened it up a little bit, the thighs wouldn't seem as bad. But yeah, I think besides that, overall the design is quite nice on this figure. And of course, you still have those weapons from last time, so we'll take those out, give them to her. She can plug them into her hand, and unfortunately, that's as far as they can plug in. Yeah. For some reason, they redesigned the figure, because the original version had closed hands, and it didn't have this problem, but then they released this version, which has an open hand, and they put this little lip at the bottom of the hand, which prevents the weapon from going all the way down. Why? I don't understand why they did that. That just, it's so frustrating that they did that. That is very, very annoying. And I've seen some people basically just push in the gun and just wiggle it past that lip and get it all the way through. I don't recommend you do that, because I tried it once and snapped her thumb off. You can kind of see where it broke a little bit, and I had to glue it back on. So yeah, I don't recommend that you try and push it past, because there's a chance it may just break the figure, which that's not fun. Yeah, what I recommend you do is take like an X-Acto knife or something and just slowly but surely file that down to where the lip doesn't bother the weapons anymore. Because that's what I'm going to do. As soon as this review is over, I'm going to fix that figure, because that bugs the crap out of me. So yeah, when she holds her guns, it doesn't look all the greatest. But you can still store the weapons on the figure, and you have plenty of options of where to store it, just like in the vehicle mode. So you can, oops, you can take them and plug the guns onto their hips, like that. Looks pretty cool. You got little slots there, so you can plug them into her forearms, like that. This looks pretty cool. And you have slots there, and a tab there, so you can plug them in and give her like shoulder cannons or something. So you have a lot of options of where to put them. And then you have the swords. Give those to her, which honestly the swords don't look as bad as the guns when in her hand. They, for the most part, look fine. And also, when did it become a trend of giving Arcee swords? Because I've seen that pop up quite a few times, and I don't know when it started, but honestly, I'm all here for it. I think it looks really cool. I always like it when they give Arcee some swords. And that don't look too bad. Too bad? Goodness, I'm just messing up words all day today. Anyways, you get that tab there, so if you don't want her holding the Energon swords, you can have them popping out on her forearm, kind of like the Prime Arcee had her blades. And that looks pretty cool. You can store them on the hip if you want. If you don't want her having shoulder cannons, you can have her having shoulder blades, actual shoulder blades, which that's interesting. And I've also discovered another way to store the swords. This one is not really official, but you can basically take the swords and just plug them into her back like that. And they hold sturdy enough. Like I said, this is not like an actual way you're supposed to store them, but you can, and it kind of works. So yeah, official or not, there are lots and lots of ways to store the weapons on the figure, and honestly, I love it. I love when a figure really goes... Goodness, can't speak. I love when a figure goes all out with the weapon storage, and this figure definitely does it. And I appreciate the amount of accessories she comes with. I mean, a deluxe with 4 different weapons? That's awesome. So, yeah, overall, Generations Deluxe Arcee is really cool. I definitely enjoy this figure. And that's pretty much all I've got to say for the robot mode, so we shall move on to the size comparisons. So, to start things off once again, here it is with a LEGO minifigure, with the Pack of Destruction minifigure Mothra, with the Pack of Destruction minifigure Godzilla. On to the more relevant size comparisons. Here she is with the Universe Energon Arcee. Here she is with the 2007 Deluxe Arcee, which I have to hold up because her leg broke. Well, re-broke. It was already broken. Now it broke again. With the Generations Deluxe Orion packs. Generations 2010 Cliff Jumper. Was with the Origins Bumblebee and Jazz, which again look really nice lined up like that. The Transformers animated Cybertron Ratchet, almost messed up his name. The Transformers animated Black Arachnia, just because. And finally, here it is with the previous review. The NECA 1984 Godzilla reissue version. I went a little overboard with the size comparisons, didn't I? Ah well. Now that I'm done with all that, it's measuring time part 2. So get this out here. You see, she is slightly over 5 inches tall. So pretty decent size deluxe. So that is pretty much it for the Generations Deluxe Arcee, and overall, I really like it. I think she turned out quite nicely. You know, it's not a perfect figure, but overall, I think it's pretty dang amazing. I mean, the amount of accessories you get, the transformation, and just the color scheme on the figure, I really like it. Also, there was something I forgot to add. While the weapons do have a square peg, they can still be held by a regular Transformer. So that's pretty cool. Unfortunately, it doesn't work the other way around. Arcee cannot hold anyone else's weapons but her own. So that's a little unfortunate. Yeah, I really like it. I think it's pretty cool. Now, some people did have a problem with this figure being that it's not 100% accurate to the original G1 Arcee, but I personally don't think it was trying to be, because last time I checked, Arcee doesn't have Energon swords in that cartoon. So I don't think this was trying to be a 100% accurate representation of that version of the character. I think it was just using G1 Arcee as like a baseline, and then just kind of going from there and sort of doing its own thing in a way. I think it's pretty cool. But if you did really want this figure in more traditional Arcee colors, they actually did do that with the Takara Legends version. So, yeah. But me personally, I like this color scheme better. And if you wanted this figure for yourself on eBay, it's going for around $30 out of the box and $40 to $50 brand new in the box, which is kind of steep for this figure, especially for a deluxe. But it's your money, spend it however you wish. And someone at Hasbro definitely still likes this design because it was somewhat reused for the Studio Series 86 Arcee. There were a lot of parts from this figure reused on that one, but it was also remolded in a lot of areas too, which some areas definitely improved, other areas not so much. Like the head sculpt, definitely an improvement. This one, it's like, it's got a passing resemblance to Arcee, but the 86 version screams Arcee. That one did a fantastic job. And while that version did kind of make it so that the hips aren't as wide, I also believe the hip articulation kind of went down. Like, it's not as movable as it is on this figure. So it's like, I don't know, the hips don't bother me that bad. I would rather have the extra bit of articulation than the smaller hips. And honestly, I don't even think the hips are that big of an issue. I honestly think it's more so the waist that's the problem. Like, the hips are fine, it's that the waist is just too thin in proportion to the hips. So I think if you just thickened up the waist, it wouldn't seem as odd. But that's just my opinion. So yeah, I've been talking and rambling long enough. This video is too long as it is. I'll end it here. So hope you all enjoyed. See you later. Sayonara.